All right, good morning to you. It's Daybreak at iFiber One News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey, along with Vicki Steele. Morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
Vicki, we got a great guest in studio right now. Mason County Commissioner Terri Drexler is here with us on a Friday morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. You know, I was thinking on my way in, how many times a day do you say good morning?
Oh, my gosh.
As much as possible.
As much as possible. Probably. That'd be interesting.
Especially on a Friday.
On
It is a good morning.
It is a good morning.
Do that metric someday.
We've been talking a lot about a lot of issues. We've been welcoming in folks from the county, the department heads, and various officials like yourself to kind of just give us and the listeners an outline of what we can expect moving into 2018. So we're just going to continue those conversations. One of the ways that we're looking at things is through forecast models, and we are at a certain level on the budget, and we need to think about building our reserves up. How does that process work? Explain that if you can to somebody like me.
I'll sure try.
Okay.
So the county had always traditionally had a policy, and it's in ordinance, that we would have a 9% to 12% reserve of what that year's budget was. And that had somewhat worked over the years. We've been hovering around the 9% level. But last March, we found ourselves with $170,000 in the bank and a $2 million payroll.
Yeah.
And so we realized that at least in these crunch periods where we're waiting for the property tax revenues to come in, we're going to need a healthier reserve. So we adopted a new ordinance to establish a higher level, ultimately to get to 15%. And we would love to get to 3 months worth of expenditures, which is about 25% of our budget.
Okay.
But you can't do that all at once. And in addition to building just that reserve, we want to build a contingency reserve, so that could be spent that year. We're not dipping into our reserve for extraordinary, but there are costs that come up. And then also a reserve to replace equipment and our vehicles.
Okay.
So we set out, this is what we want to do. We gave ourselves a 5-year time period to be able to meet these reserves or these targets. And so we have established a 5-year plan, and what we took was the how did we get here situation. Was we were probably seeing about a 0.8 to 1% difference between revenues and expenditures when you got down to the actuals. And truly they were being budgeted from 2010 to 2016, even uneven as well, at something like 1.8 or something. Our revenues tended to be conservatively forecast, but I wish we could conservatively forecast our expenditures.
I know, right?
So we have a 5-year model, which does mean that we have to slow down the rate of growth. Not that we're basically cutting, but we're slowing down the rate of growth. And that's going to make some impacts in our labor negotiations. And there's things out of our control that we can't really control, like our utility bills and a lot of times our medical insurance and those sorts of things. But we have like for instance, we'll start in 2019 with reducing the rate of growth by 1.5%, and then we'll go down to 1.25%, 1% in 2021. So our goal is to, by 2023, or actually by 2024, we will have both our 15% reserve set aside, plus we want $1 million in contingency, plus a replacement fund for our vehicles and our equipment. And then during all this, we'll need to tackle another liability we have, and that's our accrued leave and vacation pays. When people retire. Fortunately, I think as of 2011, we quit doing that in our union contracts, but people were allowed to accrue up anything they didn't use in vacation and sick, and that's cost a lot of money to pay those out as people retire, or they can call for that money anytime they want. And so we do keep a small reserve, just kind of in anticipation, but we need to really build that up so that we can just be confident as our workforce ages, that we're ready for it.
You know, we talk a lot of times, and people, just between people, talk about having those kind of reserves in their own bank accounts, and everybody always wonders why the government wouldn't run their budgets like people run their household budgets. And I know there's some pretty obvious differences there. So I can see the benefits of having those reserves set in place in a few years' time. And I agree that it's a smart idea. I can hear people listening now going, we're in trouble right now. How shouldn't we be using those? Shouldn't we kind of say, hold on the rainy day funds, hold on these things until we get our current house in order? Is that practical?
I think the house is as in order as it can be without new revenues.
Okay.
We're limited by that 1% property tax cap.
Yeah.
So unless a new revenue source comes in, or we see a tremendous amount of building going on, we're not going to have a new revenue source. We just have to work on slowing the growth. We did spend, in my term, we have spent a lot of effort to bring the salary levels up to our comparable counties, to kind of put a stopgap in all the brain drain we were having.
Yeah.
And that cost us. That cost us our reserve. And so we need to now slow those things down.
We have seen, and we were kind of just mentioning that, we are starting to see great folks coming in from other counties,
Yes.
as opposed to leaving. Like yesterday, we had the new county engineer on, and we've had many folks in that have come in from other counties. They know the good work that's happening here, so that does help. And you see great people here, and more people may want to come. So let's talk about county employees. I know you got
Okay.
some numbers, historical numbers on how the county has had employees, and where we're at with levels. And obviously the population of the county grows, so we'll need certain increases in departments. But there's probably departments where you can kind of keep the number the same over year to year.
Somewhat. The workload tends to increase as the legislature brings down more mandates.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and our caseloads increase in our courts, et cetera.
Sure.
So it's hard to maintain that. And we will hear, that we need more people because of the workload. Or if we add something on, one of the things that I'm a little bit distressed about is the fact that we don't do a lot of metrics and data gathering, and so that we can follow trends.
Sure.
And I've often been told by department heads that they just don't have the staffing and the time to be able to do that. I looked at our employee count from 2008 through 2016, and I got to tell you, it's been steady.
Okay.
I wish that I could say we've done, that I could point to that. So what we're looking at is the increased personnel costs. It's not necessarily the number of people. The differences between one year to the next tends to be no more than about 12 employees. And then these are people that are actually employed as opposed to budgeted positions. I don't unfortunately have those numbers yet, but we will get them.
Okay.
But a lot of the departments have held pretty steady. We've had some growth in criminal justice, and then in as we get grants, we'll see a lot of them in our community services department, some growth there. But it's held pretty steady. So I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that it wasn't because we were hiring up so many folk. It's other things. It's the cost of running government.
Sure. And they've got the contracts that you talk about often, and the medical leave, and the benefits, and the time vacation that you just mentioned. So those are the numbers that you see go up over
Going
years.
up, yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
One more thing that we were going to talk about here, and it's pretty interesting. It's taxation and the public benefit rating system, and it deals with open lands and a lot of land. We got a lot of open land here in the county.
Right. So state statute allows us to encourage people to put some of their land out of development by giving them a tax break. We typically think about it for agriculture and timber, but people can also do it just on their properties that are not being productive on those things by not developing them. We have not been robust about making sure that, first of all, that this is where we want it or whatnot, and that's a staffing issue. But we do have, our assessor's office has gone out and made sure that, or assessed, okay, this is the amount of property that you're actually built on, and the rest of it, yeah, I guess it would be eligible given the fact where it is. But we haven't done a real strategic and look at what do we want? What is the public benefit we're looking for? So in state statute also is a program called Public Benefit Rating System, where you can establish for the county its goals or its vision for what it wants to preserve in lands, and then people could apply, and then it would be scored based on how well it met that plan. And the higher the better. The higher the benefit, the lower the tax rate.
Sure.
This is extremely important because it's a tax reduction for that particular landowner, but it shifts the tax burden over to the folks who are not in the program.
Right.
So we have to be very, very diligent about who's getting this tax benefit. And I think we need to identify those benefits, and some of the ones that we're not really targeting or we haven't put into any kind of evaluation are important things to the public, like can the public have access to your property? And that's important to, for people to want to keep their property private to them. But if you're going to get a tax benefit, maybe there's something you have to give up. Where that land sits, is it on a slope that has a danger of a slide?
Mm-hmm.
So if you build back further, which we already have regulations about how far, but maybe take it that next step. And then the shorelines, that's a very important one. If we can keep the hard shoring reduced, it helps the salmon habitat and helps the eelgrass development and those things. So we want to start talking about this now. We will develop within our parks plan an open space plan, and in that we'll develop the vision and then set up the rating system, and then everybody that's in the current program will have to have their land reevaluated. I see this happening for the 2019 tax period. So we'd like to have something passed by May to be able to then take the applications we've received up to this point and everything we will receive from today forward and put them through this new rating system, and they will see a new evaluation in depending how quickly they go through the rating system, probably for the 2019 evaluation for the 2020 taxes.
So there's properties in the county now that are utilizing this. They have come to the county and said this portion of land is open or open-ish,
And
but we just haven't had a chance to go verify that.
No, we verify it, but we don't say, is this helping the general public?
Okay.
Is this tax benefit a benefit to the general public?
Okay.
And what is the benefit we're looking for specifically? I think when you think about open space in Mason County, it's kind of synonymous. I mean, we are a very rural county, so let's target very closely and carefully who should get the tax benefit, not just simply because you didn't develop on it, but is that land something that's very important for us to keep undeveloped?
You drive by and you see a beautiful flat land. Oh, that's pretty. Versus, hey, we're going to let you walk onto our property and use the river or use something. There's two distinct differences there.
I think the public needs to have a very tangible benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For this tax.
Very nice. Well, Commissioner Drexler, these are great ongoing conversations that we'll continue to have throughout the year. Good stuff here. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I hope everybody has a great weekend.
And good morning.